What to say before leading worship? That's a challenging question to answer. So today we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to share with you my ideas and the process that I use when I'm trying to figure out what to say before the worship service even starts. So we'll talk about that right after this. Figuring out what to say before leading worship can be just as challenging, if not even more challenging, than creating the song set. Okay, so you've spent the time creating the perfect song set, and now, how are you going to introduce it? People are coming in off the street. They've got baggage, they've got hang-ups, they've got problems. They've come to experience God, and you're the entry point. They come in, sit down, service starts. Now you've got to talk to these people and introduce your song set in a way that's meaningful and relevant and impactful. That's a lot of stress. And after doing it for 5 years, I've found that there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. The wrong way to do it is to not prepare, to wing it, to hopefully slide by. That's not going to work. I've tried it. It doesn't work, I promise you. So the way to do it is to prepare ahead of time, maybe make a few notes, do a little outline, something, but you have to prepare for what you're going to say before leading worship. So today I want to share with you the process, or the template, if you will, that I use when I'm trying to figure out what to say before leading worship. So the template that I created has 5 main sections, and we'll walk through each section. The first section is the welcome, to welcome them to coming to your church, and be sure to welcome people who are joining you online. About 2 years ago, Cornerstone started streaming our services online, and I wanted to be sure to include those people as well, because when you're watching online from home or your work or car, wherever, you're going to feel like an outsider looking in. So you want to welcome those people in as well. So welcome them in. Welcome the people who are watching online, and let them know they've made the right choice. Let them know that they're in the right place, because maybe there's a major football game going on, or maybe there's a holiday, or there's 1,000 reasons, right, why people are not going to be at church. So for those who have made the decision to come and worship God, let's let them know that they've made the right choice, that you're glad to see them, that you're happy they're here, something along those lines. All right, now that you've welcomed them in, section 2 is to share either a portion of scripture or a personal story. Now, this kind of depends on your personality and your style. For a while, I tried sharing the personal stories and making it relatable somehow, or maybe something funny happened with my kids, or something funny happened at work, or I try to share some sort of story, but it didn't really resonate with my personality all that well, and I don't have a ton of stories. Some people can tell stories all day long. That's just not me. Once in a while, I'll still tell a personal story if it's relevant and makes sense. But what I really enjoy doing is sharing scripture, finding some scripture that reinforces the song set that is to come. Whatever you choose to share, make sure that the concept you're bringing is biblical, make sure that it's truthful, and make sure that it relates to the song set you've chosen. So you might be asking, Troy, well, how do I choose the right scripture for my song set? So what I do is I look at the song set and I think, what's the overall theme here? Or what's the cornerstone song that I'm building towards in my song set? And then I look for a scripture that reinforces the concept of that song. So when I'm reading the Bible and scriptures jump out at me, or the Spirit moves on me in a certain passage, I'll make a note of it, I'll bookmark it, I'll put it away in my file, and later on, when I'm looking for Bible verses to support a song, I'll go into my file and I'll look for a scripture that might match. So then once I have my verse selected, I will research the context of that verse, because I don't want to take Bible verses out of context. Let me be very clear about that. Don't lift verses out of context for your own whimsy. That's not good. So research the context of that scripture to make sure that it supports your intent, to make sure that it matches up with the song that you want to reinforce or the theme that you want to reinforce. Again, make sure that you're being truthful and biblical here. But whichever you choose, the story or the scripture, make sure it's somewhat brief. Now is not the time to break out, a chapter out of the Bible and start reading it. It'll put people to sleep. So make sure it's brief and to the point, but still has meaning. And we'll talk about meaning in just a moment. So now the third section is to take your story or the portion of scripture and bring out some sort of concept that is meaningful, a concept that is applicable to their lives today. And this is where I want to caution you to make sure that your concept is biblical and make sure it's truthful. We don't want to be making stuff up or making new doctrine here. That's why I love using scripture, because there's so much you can pull out from a portion of scripture and make it meaningful. So try to find a concept that we can really grab a hold of and sink our teeth into, and make that scripture, make that story just come alive in a brand new way. And if you can find a concept that is maybe often overlooked, maybe there's a Bible story that we've all heard forever, but there's some concept in there, something that's often overlooked, that's not talked about very much. Highlight that and see if you can make them say, huh, or, oh, I never really realized that was in there before. There's so much nuance in scripture that we often overlook. If you can pull some of that out and really make it meaningful, that's where the magic happens. That's where you start to engage their brains and engage their hearts. All right, now it's time for section 4, the call to action. Now that they're stopping and thinking and they're ruminating on the concept you've brought to light, what's the next step? What's the call to action? What should they do with this new information? What should they do with this feeling? What should they do next? People need to be told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And this is where you call that out, and this is the call to action. Now, last but not least, section 5, lead them in prayer. This is where you show them the example. This is where you lead by example. Show them what it's like to ask the Lord to increase your faith. Show them what it's like to invite the Lord into your heart, or whatever your call to action is, do it. Show them how it's done. Sometimes people just need that example to follow, and they may just follow along with your prayer. But we want the intent of the heart to be there, of course. But that's between them and God. Okay, so that's the 5 sections of the template that I use when I'm trying to figure out what to say before leading worship. First, I welcome them. Second, I share a personal story or a portion of scripture. The third section is where I highlight a concept from the story or portion of scripture. The fourth section is where I have a call to action and I tell them what to do next. And then section 5, lead them in prayer and show them how it's done, welcome the Lord in, and glorify God. And then finally, we cue the music and away we go. So that's how I figure out what to say before a worship service. So I hope you found this useful, but I'd like to know, what do you do to figure out what you're going to say before a worship service? Let me know down in the comments. If you'd like to download my 5-part template for figuring out what to say before leading worship, I've included it as part of my Worship Leader Survival Guide, which you can get for free at the link below down in the description. The Worship Leader Survival Guide has a checklist/process map for creating the perfect song set, and then it also includes my 5-part template for figuring out what to say before leading worship. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, giving this video a like, and sharing it with someone who could really benefit from it. I'd appreciate it. As always, thanks for watching, and God bless.